Hey guys, remember to like the video and hit subscribe.
Okay, you explain that to Americans when every single thing they rely on and buy gets more expensive after years of inflation under Biden.
I will.
You come in, MAGA comes in and says, all right, you know what? You guys elected us.
Also keep in mind, unless somebody has a link to how this is possible otherwise, I'm pretty sure targeted tariffs on countries do not work because they will always just come through another country. You have no way to validate that supply chain in a way that you can enforce that tariff in any reasonable way. That's why you have to tariff the entire sector, well, unless you're trying to sanction somebody. We're not necessarily trying to tariff. They're trying to like just target and over one country. Although I don't even know if the country would be fucked over if it's still like distributing it through other countries. Because you just end up paying more for it.
Inflation under Biden.
I will.
You come in, MAGA comes in.
Oh, also, wait, I haven't finished this video yet. Tim might do it here, but I just want to get ahead just in case. And if he doesn't, it will be coming, and it is true. Eventually, conservatives will be saying that paying more for things is good. It's actually okay. It's good to be paying more for, goods and services. Even though they said the tariffs wouldn't make stuff more expensive, even though they said it'd be good for the economy, they're going to say, actually, it is going to cost more, but that's okay. That's a good thing that it's costing more.
It says, all right, you know what? You guys elected us because everything's so unaffordable.
I will stand on top of a mountain. I will stand on top of a mountain and say, and directly into the eyes, I will do it right now. To every voter, I will look into the eyes of every voter right now and say, bread is evil and accepts human sacrifice so that you can have a cheap iPhone. And if you're willing to buy a cheap iPhone, knowing that people are committing mass suicide, you stand along with them.
So I'm
and I will
evil
stand on the
because
other
I
side.
disagree with you about trade policy?
Because you think there's an acceptable degree of mass suicide and concentration camps so that your economy can improve.
I don't think that. You're shadow boxing with a caricature.
Like the Uyghur stuff was already happening in Trump term 1, no? When did the Uyghur stuff start? There's a bit longer of the Brad Tim convo. Oh my God.
I will look into the eyes of every voter right now and say bread is evil.
I'll be honest, I think Tim Pool has some anger issues. Take a listen to this clip where I try to explain why I think tariffs do more.
I talked to Brad before. I don't remember on whose show it was, but he seemed like a real-life human being. Very few people in this industry are like real-life human beings, but he seems like a real-life human being that has like real-life conversations, whereas Tim is like an actor.
More harm than good, and Tim literally just says he doesn't care about facts or data. Take a listen.
You cannot put the genie back in the bottle when it comes to trade. Steel is a great example. President Trump tried to in his first term. He put tariffs on steel imports from our allies and from other countries in order to try to increase domestic steel production. And it worked a little bit, right? You had a little bit of an increase in U.S. steel production. But actual, and research on this is overwhelming, actual employment in U.S. manufacturing overall suffered. Multiple times more jobs were destroyed than created because the cost went up in all the other industries that have steel as an input cost. So other manufacturing industries lost jobs, so steel could be protected a little bit. More people lost jobs and lost income.
So like Brad is running into an issue here because he's trying to debate like econ, but the other guy is just like a populist rhetorician, basically. So Tim is never responding with substance to any of these points. It's just going to be, okay, well, how can I maneuver this into tariff good? And that's it. Like tariff good. The tariff is good because Trump wants it, so we have to defend the tariff. Oh, I guess that's probably why he starts sowing the out and screaming.
In all the industries that rely on steel as an input cost. It's a huge negative to American society, but it protected some people who are well-connected.
And so what you're describing is what I call the heroin addiction economy, where it's let's continually gut and destroy the root of labor in this country for short-term gains in other areas. I don't care.
Short-term gains? Is that how you would describe the United States as all short-term gains? What do you mean?
If a top-level company is going to decrease a little bit, if it's going to restore the base and foundation of jobs in this country. So
you don't care about policies that destroy
I don't care about the fruits of the poisonous tree. And saying now that
I do.
The fruits of the poisonous tree? What the f are you talking about?
Great, and that will lead to the destruction of this country.
I mean, the hyperbole at the end there is just quite something. Opposing steel tariffs will lead to the destruction of this country? I don't think so, Tim. I actually think we'll be okay either way. Now, my point here, just to explain if you couldn't get it from the brief clip, because I, again, wasn't allowed very much time to speak, is that Trump tried tariffs when he was president, and he put tariffs on steel imports coming into the country in hopes of protecting steel jobs in the steel industry here in the U.S. And it did do that to some extent. About 1,000 jobs in the steel industry increased after those tariffs. But as many as 75,000 other jobs were lost in other manufacturing sectors where they rely on steel as an input and their costs went up. So you protected some jobs, but overall more jobs were lost. That was my...
How does Trump misinform the public on foreign entities paying for a tariff? I'm 25 and people have gone their whole lives without knowing what the difference between import tax and tariffs. Yeah, well, most people never deal with that as an American. But the important thing to remember is, and you have to remember this, and it's already coming if it hasn't already, MAGA doesn't care. MAGA, it's kind of part of the, I don't want to associate this with the neo-Nazi talking point, because it's really not, but it's the economics talking point. A lot of these people are getting suckered into, they don't care about economics Because the economics of the United States are pretty good. They never cared about the economics. They care about the intangibles, the culture, and they're willing to take economic hits to have what they consider to be a better culture. Now, Trump will talk about economics, but it's just like that's like a virtue signal for think tanks or something. The important thing is the culture. So if it ever comes down to a point to where we can f our economy over a little bit to have big culture gains, MAGA will always be in favor of that. MAGA will be in favor of that. Not just Trump, but MAGA will follow Trump there. So just remember that, because it could be coming, or maybe it's already coming, but yeah.
My point that these things do more harm than good, and there's lots of data and facts and research to back that idea up. Now, you could disagree.
Am I missing something? Isn't the argument about tariffs is that we want to protect domestic industry by making our industry more competitively priced relative to foreign competitive? No. What are you talking about? No. What do you mean? We are competitive. We have the largest GDP in the world. We've got a big GDP per capita. We're the foundation of a ton of innovation, from pharmaceuticals to tech to software to spaceships. Like, no, what do you mean? What are you talking about? What do you think America's missing? Like, only Trumples have gotten like hoodwinked into thinking that, like, but do we have enough coal miners? We don't need coal miners. We're ahead of that. We're advanced beyond that level of economy. We don't need people going into mines to extract coal with pickaxes. And the fact that we're somehow sad that we don't have those jobs doesn't make any sense. Our economy is almost at full employment. We don't have a ton of people who are lacking jobs. Economically, compared to the G7, we're doing great, but I'll just say we're doing okay because that triggers some people to say that. You're not when you protect your basic industries, like your raw extraction or refining, you're doing that at the cost of every customer in the United States who now has to pay more for everything, and at the cost of your greater industries that are working further on down the supply chain. You don't want people mining lithium out of the ground. You want people being computer programmers. You don't want people who are, digging for oil or natural gas. You want people creating rocket ships. That's what we do in our economy. We're highly specialized, and we create these like final stage goods and services that are really amazing that only the United States can create because we have the specialized knowledge to do so. We don't need to do the raw level, base level stuff. That's a waste of our time.
Agree. You could cite other studies, you could push back, but he didn't do that. He just says, I don't care. I don't care about the data. I don't care. I just want to protect workers. But I'm literally explaining to you how you're not doing that. It felt like I was talking to a woke person. He ranted on and on about personal anecdotes and experiences and hypotheticals. And whenever I tried to cite statistics or facts or research, he dismissed it as graph goes up. Take a listen to this clip where he does exactly that.
We're getting too much trapped into the graph go up argument, which is the stupidest argument imaginable. It is good that on average people can buy more sticks of bubblegum and there's no more baseball at the park, there's no more apple pie, there's no more Christmas. That's insane.
That's such a caricature of economic progress.
But the people who
what?
trapped into the graph
research, he dismissed it as graph goes up. Take a listen to this clip where he does exactly that.
We're getting too much trapped into the graph go up argument, which is the stupidest argument imaginable.
Oh, graph go up. So he doesn't care about the economy, and he'll virtue signal on this more and more and more going forward. And I'm sure he will more even in this conversation, but
it is good that on average people can buy more sticks of bubblegum and there's no more baseball at the park, there's no more apple pie, there's no more Christmas. That's insane.
That's such a caricature.
Apple pie, Christmas, and baseball games, right? And so we can buy more bubble gum, right? This is the economic for culture. So he's willing to make these big economic sacrifices for culture. Now, there is an argument I guess you can have there. Well, I mean, there's always an argument. There's an argument you can have for anything. However, remember, these were the people who said they wanted to run on like kitchen table issues and on the economy and on like building a stronger economic foundation. But this is not an economic argument. This is a culture argument. Ironically enough, I guess Brad kind of said it like what the progressives used to argue for culture over economy. The economy, we need to focus on DEI, affirmative action, culture, I guess.
Of economic progress.
But
to the people who, for 1 second, to the people who have struggled to afford everything over the last couple of years, and for people on your side of the political spectrum have railed against that and how unaffordable life has been, you are now coming on and championing policies that would make things go up and then dismissing the cost of living going up as.
What are the cultural gains they're trying to make? They'll never specify. They will never specify that. The reality is people feel kind of like lost and aimless. Probably, I've said this a million times, but it's not sexy to talk about somebody gives a probably because of technology and technological proliferation, meaning like the fact that you're connected to the internet all the time, you've got a phone, it makes you miserable because everything you read is horrible and evil and terrible. And instead of going outside and evaluating how you feel like the world is based on what you see, you're evaluating the world based on what your phone tells you to think about the world, which is horrible because that's where all the money is to be made. That's where all the algorithms are directing you. That's where all these people are manipulating your mind to be. So of course you feel horrible. So if somebody says they can protect your culture better, you don't know what the fuck that means, but it must be better than this. So then you go in that direction. That's it.
oh, bubblegum more expensive, graph go down. No, actually, for people who don't have, well, comfortable media jobs, like I think most of us do, it's actually a big deal when things get more expensive. When the price they pay at the store goes up.
Yeah, so like I say in this clip, it was just such a caricature of an argument. First, apple pie, baseball, and Christmas have not gone away. I don't know what he's talking about. I eat apple pie every year, and most Americans still celebrate Christmas. Some traditions have changed and waned, and baseball's a lot.
What's the healthiest solution to people that feel that way? I don't know. We have to do something to connect to each other again. I don't know if that just means going outside more or finding events or things that, I don't know, we have to feel that something is probably not good about the massive amount of tech that's like flooding people's lives constantly.
A lot less popular than it used to be, and I'm sure there are many reasons for that. What it really has to do with free trade or why it's necessarily a bad thing, I'm not sure. There's still baseball leagues for anybody who wants their kid to play baseball. There's still baseball on TV for anybody who wants to watch it. It hasn't gone away. It's just become less popular, and I'm not sure why I should care. But again, the idea that has anything to do with free trade or that free trade has taken away apple pie or Christmas from America, it just comes off as delusional. And then he's dismissing increased costs for American families because of tariffs as bubblegum.
Real GDP gains only come from technological implementation. By offloading all manufacturing to China, you're giving up the ability to improve through advancements. How do you figure? First of all, history betrays you. That's absolutely not true. Do you think America stopped innovating when we let other people refine metal for us? What are you talking about?
Just want cheap bubblegum. And no, it's about the price of clothes, the price of food, the price of housing. Like, these are the things that struggling Americans have struggled to afford in recent years. And protectionist trade policies, my argument is that they make those things more expensive. You can disagree with that argument if you want, but to just dismiss those concerns as you just want cheap bubblegum, it seems just completely dismissive and reductionist. He seemed to just blame everything under the sun on free trade, including the fact that kids don't play outside anymore.
Kids don't go outside anymore. And
because of free trade?
Well,
no,
yes.
because of technology. Okay, no, but wait, it's
like,
Oh,
seriously?
he said it. Who said it? Somebody said it. Technology. But technology is that's just not very sexy. Nobody cares. Also, these guys make all their money on their technology, right? And I make money on technology. I make money in a way having you guys be, I guess, miserable or at least addicted to technology, right? So talking against that is kind of talking against your own interest. But it's just not a very fun thing to talk about. Are Americans actually struggling with basic necessities? No, but like if you say that, everybody gets super ass pained about it. So, but not really, no.
I think kids don't go outside because they play Fortnite on the Xbox or they're addicted to their iPads or because they live in less neighborhoods. Like, there's so many reasons for that, but it's not because we have too much free trade with Canada. And then at one point, the notion that young Americans these days are ignorant came up and don't understand our history and our culture and civics. And I agree with that to some extent. He suggested that too was because of free trade.
The people who don't live here and aren't from here don't know or care about the value.
Who don't live here or are not from here? Does he mean immigrants there, or is he just talking about people manufacturing stuff in other countries for us? I haven't watched this whole thing. So.
And he suggested that too was because of free trade.
The people who don't live here and aren't from here don't know or care about the value.
I think an increasingly large share of native-born people don't know history or value traditions.
Which is exactly my point. It is being diluted and dissolved.
It's being diluted and dissolved.
But not because of immigration, because of their own ignorance and lack of education.
And I think a large.
This is a neocon, Brad. Well, that's like a bad word. That's like the N word. You don't call people neocons. That's supposed to be an insult. But like, Brad is like a traditional like conservative. I think he just has like conservative values. These people are like a dying breed. Like the real conservatives who don't just buy into all of the MAGA populist brain rot.
Which is exactly my point. It is being diluted and dissolved.
But not because of immigration, because of their own ignorance and lack of education.
And I think a large component is free trade, which is why I brought the issue up.
Like, no, Tim, I actually think that's probably to do with the education system and with parenting, not with import levels and tariff prices. I mean, he just seemed to blame literally every single thing that's bad in America today on free trade.
Oh, so he's like, I don't know if he'll get there, but remember, it's like, don't respond with substance to anything Brad says. Blame import, tariff good, tariff good. Blame import, tariff good. Blame import, tariff good. Blame import and tariff good. Did you just call a libertarian a neocon? Libertarian will probably align with neocons more on econ policy and less on foreign policy. And a libertarian might align maybe more with a populist on foreign policy, but not at all on econ policy. Because populists like MAGA, there's a concept called third positionism, but these guys will be socialists. They might not call it that, but people like MAGA would have no problem with socialism as long as it's benefiting their ethno-nationalist interests. That was a mouthful, but the best recent example of this is, remember how much we hated Obama and net neutrality and Obama controlling the internet and net neutrality. This is the worst thing ever. But when Trump says maybe America should own 50% of TikTok, that's okay because it's serving the ethno-nationalist interests of the MAGA movement. So
including housing prices, which simply doesn't make any sense.
Inherently, Tom Fuller just said, third position identify as fascist and socialist. Yes, there's nothing inherently contradictory between fascism and socialism per se. If socialism is looked at primarily as an economic organization, a mode of economic organization, and if fascism is just looked at structure of government in terms of authoritarian, totalitarian leadership. So you can have a leader who wants to control the media, control the government, single party, if you want to be real big and prosecute, or prosecute political enemies, but is also like really big on redistribution, on protectionist policies, on anti-free trade stuff, anti-immigration stuff that's protecting your domestic workers and domestic economy. There's nothing contradictory between those two positions, which is what a third positionists and a lot of MAGA are like basically making their way towards if they're not already there.
1950, it took approximately 4,637 hours of labor on average for the average American worker to own a home. As of 2024, it's 15,142. I don't think Gen Z is particularly buying the argument that they've been raised out of poverty, things have gotten better. I think Gen Z is actually livid over the conditions that they've been left by these policies.
This is such a one-dimensional stat. Like, to buy a house, like, first of all, we're talking averages or medians, because that's important, because there's probably a lot more larger houses now that might pull up the average. But also, like, what is the house now compared to what it used to be? My understanding is, if somebody has a link, I would appreciate this, because I've read this a lot, but I haven't seen this distilled in graph or, like, data form. So I want to make sure I'm not repeating something correct. But my understanding is houses in America in general have gotten a lot larger than they used to be as well. So if you have to work more for a larger house, it's not as surprising. And it might also be, too, that today people maybe expect more to have a house, whereas before they were happier living in, like, I don't know if like a townhome or like whatever the you call those things are considered homes or not, or if those would be considered apartments, I'm not sure. But it's always be fearful or be weary of people that use like one-dimensional comparisons like that.
This whole framing is incorrect. Housing is not unaffordable today because of free trade. It's because governments across this country have made it impossible to build housing. That's why we have a housing shortage and housing is so expensive. And in fact, the kind of protectionist policies you're talking about would make housing more expensive.